Okay. Hello, developers and all the hackers present here today. I'm Shrishti from Hack and IT 5.0 organizing team, and I'll be hosting today's session. Hack and ITR, which we all know as India's largest student-run hackathon organized by GDSC and IT Rourkela and Open Code. As we have participants ranging from absolute beginners to working professionals. So, to introduce freshers with hackathon basics and to teach developers about new tools and cutting edge technologies to help them with their projects, we have brought the series Hack and Hustle. After successfully conducting first two sessions on generative AI and blockchain, um, with an enthusiastic response from you all, today we are at our third session, Emerging Tech and How to Fast Track Career Growth by Tushar Tayal. Devanjan, can you add Tushar Tayal on stage?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Okay, he is here. Hello.
Hey, hi Srishti. Hi everyone.
Okay, let me introduce. Tushar Tayal is the Director of Engineering at Swiggy and alumnus of NIT Raipur. He's been engineering manager at Ola, software engineer at Microsoft, and senior software engineer at Samsung. He's totally an exemplary leader in the tech world and will be guiding us in the new emerging technologies and how to leverage them for our growth, for our career growth. We all know you're very excited for the session. So, without any further ado, let's start the session. But before that, I'd like to inform that today is the last day of registration. So, for those who haven't registered already, Devfolio's link is in the description and pinned in the comments. So, let's begin.
Hey guys, first of all, I think very excited to be with my friends today. Uh, so I think whenever we talk about engineering and whenever we discuss science and technology with the young generation, I think nothing is more satisfying than that, right? So, and when you talk about engineering as a domain, right? So I personally feel it is not just studies of some 40-45 subjects, but it is kind of studies of the intellectual life, right? So a lot of us would have wanted to become magicians as a child, right? We all thought, I think we would like to do this, we would like to do that. Uh, and trust me on this, after being in the industry for 11 years and doing a lot of experiments during the college, there's nothing that comes to magic than engineering, right? So engineering is the closest thing that comes to magic. So in a way, we are all magicians, right? We kind of do things which I think a lot of other folks can't even imagine, right? So uh, then when we talk about problems, right? So engineers always like to solve problems, and if there is no problem, we will create one problem and then solve it, right? So uh, I will talk about my career progression. I will talk about how I landed in Swiggy and my career path as well, and what kind of obstacles normally an engineering graduate and once you venture into the corporate life you face, right? So I started my journey with a company called Amadeus. I will give you guys a brief about how I got into Amadeus and what was my attitude into the like into this job hunting cycle, right? When I was in third year, I was kind of learning a lot of things, right? Doing bunch of certifications, trying to understand the latest technologies. Did some internship with a few new age startups as well. And then I think when the companies were coming for the regular placements and all, we were kind of not very lucky that time, that a lot of companies were showing up and the packages and all was also not very great. But then I think one thing that stayed common across, I think, more than a decade is I have never given up, right? So during the college I got a job offer which was not something that I was looking at. And then once the college ended, is when I decided to stay back in the same place, fight for it, and get the best possible offer that I can. At that point in time, I still remember. I think I was one of those engineers. I think who was placed off campus. I was the first off campus placement from NIT Raipur 2013 batch, and I got the best package in terms of numbers as well. So one thing that has stayed with me is you don't need to take failures very seriously, right? Because success is only about moving from one failure to another failure without any loss in enthusiasm, right? So if you lose the enthu, if you lose the will to try and explore, right, that is when I think you lose the game. So there are times when people will criticize you. They will say things on your face. They will say things uh, in your bag saying you do not belong here, a lot of other things, but you still need to damn show up, right? And that is where I think the continuity and the kind of will that you have to do something on your own, right, that will keep you going. And once you enter into the corporate arena, right, it's like showing up for an exam every other day, because you need to and it has to be very very dynamic, because it's not it's an exam without any syllabus, right? Because in this case uh, you don't have any syllabus which is given to you and then you prepare and then you brush up and you go and write papers, right? In this case it is mostly about adapting. So in corporate sector the most important thing is adaptability, right? So if you don't adapt, I think then you're off the race. And right now, I think I heard from Srishti that there were a lot of sessions on blockchain, AI, ML, data science, right? So I also wanted to touch base upon the emerging tech, because when I talk to students, I've been to many colleges before as well. And when I talk to students, there's a common misconception that because of automation and AI, our generations will have to deal with a lot of jobs being replaced by automation, right? Or jobs being replaced by AI and all, right? First of all, I want to clarify and I want to tell you guys that AI is not the new thing, right? It took, I think it took us for chat GPT to come and actually wake up the world and realize that AI exists or Gen AI exists, right? So data science, ML, AI, Gen AI, these are not new things. Just that I think it took a chat GPT for the world to realize and wake up and acknowledge that there's something that exists in the market. But if you go back 20 years and see that technology is one thing that keeps evolving. And in the future as well, if you feel that this is what I have learned, and you feel that I'm done with it, right, this is something that I will use for my entire life, then you're kind of assuming something which is not true, because technology keeps evolving. And in this phase, when we are saying that a lot of jobs would be replaced by automation or AI, it is correct, but there are new bunch of opportunities that will also come up, right? So if you guys are following the right kind of details, right, if you're following, say, AI properly, you will see a bunch of new startups coming up in that space. If you follow Gen AI around Chat GPT itself, I think more than hundreds of startups have already come. So there are some jobs which are getting redundant and hence being removed, but there are a lot of new jobs also being created alongside, right? When you talk about blockchain is not new. I think a lot of you guys must be trading Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, so you guys must be knowing that it's not a new tech. The only thing is people kind of realize that this kind of technologies are important, because uh, the job is demanding for that and you need to adapt, right? Otherwise, if you don't adapt, uh, you kind of like become redundant in the market, because this kind of skills will keep coming, right? Now in this kind of situation, right, when you say that in the market there is a scarcity of jobs and the market is also poor, so first of all let's admit that there is some uh, like there's some condition which is kind of pushing us backwards in terms of how the IT market was, like, in terms of number of jobs, in terms of the pay ranges and all, we see there is an impact. But in these cases, whenever I think you see that there is a slowdown, you need to kind of stand up and take things differently, right? So I will tell you. So I was hiring for some interns and some entry level software engineers, and even for an intern, I got more than 5K profiles, right? So for me to go through those profiles, even get you the opportunity to prove your metal, it's not easy, right? So I will only look at those cases which would be presented to me in a way that I look at them without missing them. So we do also run a lot of models in order to understand if the CVs are coming in the right fashion, if the appropriate skills are being matched, using a lot of AI tools and all. But my point is, uh, whenever I think you're approaching, from the point of creating your CV to kind of mapping your skills against the job openings and understanding if it is the right skill match for you, and then how do you reach the recruiter, how do you reach an engineering leader who is hiring, so that you get the attention of that person. So you have to become more and more innovative in that space, because earlier, when the demand was high and the supply was low, it was easy to get the attention because people were kind of looking at the talent potential, the talent pool. But now that the talent pool is already there and available for hiring, it becomes more and more difficult to actually engage with the person in the best possible manner and get the attention of the recruiter, right? uh, I will also talk about like how more than a college and individual matters, right? Because once you get into the corporate sector, your college will help you land your first job, right? Probably your second job as well, because a lot of guys switch companies in a span of 6 to 12 months if they don't like the culture, if they don't like the manager, if they don't like the work, if they don't like the domain. So first of all, as an engineer, you need to understand what is your core competency. Is it front end, is it back end, is it data science? You need to understand the roles and responsibilities in different domains. You need to understand what kind of problems you're going to deal with, right? You need to understand if there is enough potential in that space to grow. I have seen a bunch of engineers, because of lack of mentors, right? Because you kind of take your own decisions without proper consultation, and then you take some decisions which are landing you to a space where there is no rollback, right? So you kind of join as a QA engineer, and then you don't like that space, and you want to move to a dev engineering space, and that transition itself becomes more and more tricky and difficult after getting into that domain, right? So understand what what do you like, right? And then understand the potential, understand the future scope, understand the technology, try and do some projects, right? Because if you read, um, so engineering is like a math, right? If you don't practice, you will never be refining your art, right? So math is something where if you don't keep solving problems, it's gone, right? So similarly, engineering is similar. If you just read and read, it's not about mugging things, it's about actually practically doing things, right? So I advise you guys to actually take up some real life projects, and solving real life problems uh, will actually help you figure out the problems that exist, and might uh, help you either land a job or start your own venture, right? Because all of these new age startups, be it my current company Swiggy or my last company Ola Electric, all of these companies, I think it always starts with a problem. A problem at hand can be a startup which is valued at 10 billion, 15 billion, 20 billion in the future, right? Because and nobody knows the solution. So if you feel that Bhavis would know that how the scooter markets would work, how the scooter manufacturing would work, he was leading a company that actually does booking on the app, right, for a cab to actually go from one place to another place. And then he started a company which manufactures EVs at scale, and became one of the leading manufacturers in that space. So nobody knows the solution. People kind of believe that they can solve the problem, and then they figure out, right? And always ask the right questions. So whenever you will join your first company, uh, mentorship is very very critical and important for you to actually sustain and grow in that same company and even venture outside. So I will tell you, how that can actually lead you to the right opportunity, as well as uh, give you the right direction. Because sometimes if you're not looking for the right mentorship, you're kind of believing that whatever you're doing is right. It could be the right thing, but in most of the cases, without the right direction, we might be just doing heat and trial, right? So when you venture in the corporate space, ask your seniors the right set of questions, right? And before that, I think pick up the domain that I talked about. So once you're in the corporate sector, keep trying to like keep trying your best to learn more and more, right? Because the first 5 years are like setting the foundation. Even if you have to compromise for money, even if you feel that I'm getting 5 lakhs extra in some other company, but the learning opportunities are bigger here, right? Always optimize for learning in the initial phase of your career, because that is what I have also done. uh, because when you learn and when you keep learning, when you feel that this is the right team for me, this is the right place for me to actually understand the space, understand how things work, and overall I think the culture, the kind of work that you're getting is good, right? And you're growing every other day, that is the best way to actually stay and then grow in that space, right? And if you don't like it, then there are a bunch of other companies also hiring, right? So it's not like you're glued to that space and you're glued to that company. But always optimize for learning in the initial phase of your career, and never take failure seriously, right? Because uh, people kind of look at the outcomes and not the process. When I was working for Amadeus and I thought of venturing out and looking outside, people were kind of asking me questions that you might be stepping out too early and it might not be the right step and all of that. But I felt personally that probably there are enough good learning opportunities outside my current company, and that is when I ventured and joined Samsung. Uh, Samsung was one of my dream companies in my college, because that was the company which used to pay the highest, which used to be regarded as one of the best offers that you can get in college. I was in the waiting list in my college when Samsung came. I went till the last round, but I did not go through. So that was always in my head that I had to get into Samsung. And uh, when I was working for Amadeus, even though Amadeus was paying better than Samsung at that time, um, cracking Samsung was like solving for my ego, right? It was like a ego massage for me, in that uh, damn, I can do it, right? So sometimes you have to also go for it. And then in Samsung, it was a good time. I ventured into a new space. I talked about adaptability, right? So I was working on a very different space, working on a backend space, like a central system kind of a thing on Amadeus, and then ventured into a different space altogether. And that kind of kick started my career in a different domain. I started into app development. I started into mobile device management. So I talked about adaptability, which is the most critical part, right? So in Samsung, when I was doing all of this, I think I kind of realized that the learning, like the pace of learning in Samsung was also not to the levels that I would love to in my initial phase of my career. And then I ventured outside and joined a company called Ola Cabs. Ola Cabs at that time was one of the best companies to work for, because at that time I believe it was still one of the best phases in my career where I learned the most, right? And that is why I tell you guys that you have to always optimize for learning. And I still remember working 24 hours continuously with the team, with the kind of group that we had, and continuously learning and experimenting and innovating. And I think even now in my regular work hours, I kind of use those learnings on a daily basis, right? So and whenever you see, I think this kind of opportunity where you feel that this is the right place for me to learn and nurture myself, groom myself in the initial phases of your career, it's very important to give some time to that company, right? uh, and then I think in Ola Cabs, I think, as I told you guys, it was one of the best phases in my career. And I personally was not looking outside, but I was doing a lot of interviews, hiring a lot of developers. And then Microsoft was calling me for interview. I did not even have my resume prepared. I got a call from LinkedIn, and then I was personally doing a lot of interviews. The very last week I had said no, that I'm not coming for the interview. The next week also they had scheduled it. And then I got a call from HR when I was just going for a movie. So I told them that I'm on the way and I'm coming for the interview. I was not formally dressed, not prepared, not carrying a resume. I was on my bike to actually go and watch a movie with my friend that I had to drop off and went to Microsoft for an interview that I cracked without any preparation. When I went there, a lot of guys were preparing, mugging up things, doing a bunch of other things, uh, sitting there in fear and kind of praying that they should go through. But luckily, without doing any of that, I was through. And the next day, I got a call that I need to meet the GM of that group and I'm going to be hired. So that's my story about Microsoft. And in Microsoft, I think I stayed there for close to I think 2 years and 10 months, which is 34 months, and worked with so many different teams. Again, when I talk about adaptability, you need to understand that technology is a space which keeps evolving. So when you talk about Gen AI, even Gen AI, you will see different versions of Gen AI coming, and probably 5 years onwards, you never know what kind of new space we are going to venture into. So one thing that will take you higher and higher in your career is learnability, and always uh, finding out the best space for yourself. Like, try and understand that there are so many things to do and you can't do everything, right? If you feel that I am going to do everything, then you're going to lose the battle because you're not going to have focus. So but when you're doing something, give your 100% to it, so that uh, you kind of understand the entire ecosystem. And when I talk about expertise, even if you're a front end developer, you need to understand how the end to end ecosystem works, right? Otherwise you will not be able to connect and lead things in a way that I think you can grow further in your area. What I'm saying is, as an SD1, when you join a company, or as a entry level developer when you join any company, right, you kind of get exposed to the domain that you work with. But as you grow in your profile, right, as you become SD2, SD3, SD4, you need to understand the entire ecosystem. You need to understand how the overall system works, and what kind of like to create architectural patterns, design patterns, and all of that, right? And all of you that all of that you're learning today, right, including the DBMS, including the object oriented programming, including the data structures, including the compiler design, all of it is very very important, and that is setting the foundation for you to actually go and learn more and more new things, right? So even if you talk about blockchain, you talk about Gen AI, now you need to start taking some entry level sessions on these technologies to understand what kind of space is this, right? Only knowing about Gen AI, that Gen AI exists and this is what it is, will not help. You need to understand the real life use cases, right? And right now there are a lot of learning portals. Even I think one thing that I was doing a session in one of the colleges in Bhopal, and a very renowned IT colleague was there from one of the companies, and he's the CTO there. He told a very nice thing, that पूछने में क्या जाता है, right? So whenever you feel like you don't know something, feel free to ask, and feel free to uh, uh, ask the right set of questions. You can't be asking everything, because otherwise people will not take you seriously. But uh, if you feel like you don't know something, there's no point shying away, thinking that I will not ask the questions, right? Now when I talk about individuals, right, so you'll see the difference, because when we talk about colleges, the initial first 2 3 years, the college brand, or the kind of projects that you do in college will help you. But once you venture into the corporate space, it's very very dynamic, guys, right? uh, every other day when you actually go and work, right, you will get a new problem to solve. It's not like the same problem or a definite set of questions or a particular book given to you and there's a syllabus and then you kind of read and learn and then do that, right? So it's going to be a different challenge, it's going to be a different ball game altogether, and you need to prepare yourself for that. So uh, I think like try and get yourself a quick start, a head start in terms of doing some projects and building your own portfolio. I was talking about getting so many profiles even for an intern role, and from very good colleges, NIT, BITS, Pilani, all the BITS colleges and IITs, folks trying to reach out, and like thousands of profiles coming my way for just two open roles, right? So then in those cases, I think the profile that catches the most of attention is uh, the ones with the I think the most innovative way to reach out, or the kind of portfolio that they have in their profiles. The world is becoming more and more competent. I'm not saying you guys do a race and then figure out how do you become the best, uh, but become the best version of yourself, right? You need to find out how do I give my best possible thing every other day to become a best version of myself. Don't compare yourself with others. Probably everybody has their own calendar, right? Probably somebody will grow now, you might grow 2 years later on, but compare with yourself and see how you're growing every other day, right? So when I talk about personal projects, building portfolio, even open source contributions, getting internships, building your own strong resume, and when I talk about strong resumes, one thing that I've noticed in some of the profiles that we receive is a lot of guys fake a lot of things on resume. Never do that in your own resume, because the problem that you will see is people will start asking you questions around that, and then you will see the other person sitting there is not a fool, right? They will realize it on the first go that this person doesn't know that, and still you're putting that on the resume. So there is a credibility loss, there is a trust deficit that kicks in, and when that happens, I think it's a big no. At least for me, when I hire, I see something written, something very fancy written on the resume, and I personally don't have a questionnaire or a question bank that I keep with me and I ask questions from that in my interview. I look at the resume and then deep dive into the projects or the kind of things that he has written on the resume, right? So be ethical there. Another thing which is very important when I talk about uh, getting filtered in the resume, we talk about how do you approach that, and then when I talk about handling the interview thing, right? So one very important learning I've cracked Google, I've cracked Microsoft, I've cracked Meta, uh, worked with companies like Microsoft, Swiggy, Ola, Samsung, Remedios, like the top and top of the world in terms of their markets here, in terms of the technology that they build, right? So I've seen the market, I've seen I've interviewed with the best of the lot, right? So one thing that is very common across all companies, right? That if you're able to make somebody learn something in a short span of time, and sometimes you write the script of the interview, right? As in, even if you're giving interview and you are able to influence the conversation in a way that you intend to be, right? Like if you're able to make me learn something in a short span of time, say if I'm meeting you for an interview of 45 minutes, and I see that in those 45 minutes you're able to impress me, you're able to tell me something that I don't know, or you're able to teach me something, educate me on something that I don't know, I would be damn impressed by that person. And similar thing I've seen, like at many occasions I've seen that I have started talking about something and the entire interview is about that thing only. Like the interviewer might have thought like I would ask this guy 10 random questions, but then I started talking about something and the entire interview is about that particular thing, and that is my core strength. So you play on your strength, right? You don't let the interviewer decide the script of the interview. That is how you should approach the interview, and self confidence is the most critical aspect to actually define the script of any interview. I would like to get questions also. If you guys have questions, you can interrupt me and ask me as well, right? So that we don't lose the track of things that I'm talking about, right? So one other important aspect that I would like to tell you guys is like treating yourself as a leader. Right? You don't have to be tagged as a leader to act as a leader, right? Like what I'm saying is you don't have to be an engineering manager, VP, or director to actually start acting as a leader. uh, I will give you an example. So I hired a couple of interns from very normal colleges, and these guys are one of the best performing senior developers now. It's been just 12 months. I hired them as interns. A lot of guys were questioning me that why we are getting interns from tier three colleges, and I hired them based on the portfolio, based on the value add that they bring to the table. these guys were the best performing interns, bringing crazy ideas to the table. Some of them making millions for Swiggy every other day. And these guys are like natural leaders, right? These guys were interns. Now, after interns, they were offered PPO, and then they are promoted to SD2 role in a span of 12 months. So you don't have to actually be a leader to act as a leader. You need to stand up and actually challenge yourself, right? You need to take the ownership. You need to show that you care for the company, you care for the team. As a leader, what I look at is the value add, right? I don't look at the designation. I look at what this guy brings to the table, and everything else will follow, right? The rewards will follow, the promotions will follow, the growth will follow. At least in a company like Swiggy, where we reward the right individuals. And most of the Indian startups, or any company that cares about the growth and speed of execution and fast moving culture, they always care about the value add, right? So make sure that, I think, you always optimize for the value add. uh, a lot of challenges will come in your life, right? So when I talk about getting into companies like Swiggy, or getting into companies like Microsoft, uh, people always look at the outcome, they don't look at the process, right? So one thing that I keep telling is, you should keep fighting until you win, right? Because the road to success is dotted with so many tempting parking spaces, right? So and you might feel that I should just park it there and I'm done, I'm good, right? I'm with Microsoft. This is like one of the dream companies for so many other folks. Now I should be settled. And so don't get don't settle for something that you kind of regret it later, right? Because I would say the habit of compromising is something that you should give up, right? If there is a habit of compromising on getting something that you didn't intend to, like you were looking for Google and you got something which is less than Google, and you kind of compromise, then you don't move forward, right? You might not get Google. Even while you're not satisfied, you might get something less than Google, but at least you will progress, right? That is the way I look at it. So when I was at Microsoft, and I was venturing outside Microsoft to a company called Ola Electric. Uh, it was a company which was just coming up out of nowhere, right? Like Ola was in a different business, and the scooter that you guys see, the entire software team was handled by me, managed by me. We built the software and the team from grounds up. There was no one in my team when I was hired as engineering manager. So I had to build the team as well as the product. I was writing my PRs, doing the reviews, pushing them, deploying them end to end. So when I joined as an EM, I was the only person in the team. So there was no report for me when I joined Ola. And when I exited Ola, there was a team of 30 members. And all of them were like one of the best engineers I worked with. So I built the team, I built the product. That product has been scaled to so many users in India now. And I'm so much proud of what we have built there, right? And then starting with a company like Swiggy, where you need to kind of, I was talking about creating problems, right? Because in a space like Swiggy, um, it's already a matured setup, very good engineers, a very big team. I started with the consumer apps, right? The app that you use to order groceries and order food, and we do millions of orders per day. So it's like a matured setup. You need to kind of create problems and solve them, and then find the right impact, so that you are not solving anything and everything, you're solving for the right problems. So that is where I think the engineering mindset becomes more and more important, right? I talked about never compromise. So that is the mantra that I wanted to tell you guys. Like, choose the best for yourself. If you if you compare yourself with others, if you feel that this is fine and this person is also doing this, I am also doing this is fine, then you're kind of stopping yourself from being the best person, right? So um, and the last thing that I want to talk about overall in the corporate space is taking right and calculated risk, right? Because not taking risk is the biggest risk. So examples I've given you is moving from Microsoft to a company like Ola Electric, where I did not have a proper charter also, a proper team also. I built the team, I built the product, built some products initially which was scrapped, and then we built something else. That product got scaled, the team was scaled. So there's a different kind of satisfaction when you do something from grounds up, right? And that is where I think I got the next opportunity in Swiggy to lead the consumer apps group, and then within a span of 12 months, got promoted to director of engineering, and now handling not just consumer apps but handling all applications within Swiggy. So kind of heading the entire mobile charter and even the web charter as well. So I think good work always gets you more work. So I was talking about being a leader and trying to always be being the best version of yourself, right? So when you kind of uh, do that every other day, no matter if people criticize you, if people try to pull you down, uh, if people appreciate you, there would be occasions when you feel like giving up, but you still damn show up every other day, right? And that is what I think consistency and continuity is the key to success, right? uh, Last thing is, I would end by saying that one thing that you guys need to understand. I talked about the Samsung thing, the ego massage that I wanted after uh, joining Amadeus, and that race to join Samsung, even though it was not the only company, right? But so what I'm saying is, when I was not getting into Samsung during college, I felt like this is the end of the world, uh, and probably I might not belong here. I might do something on my own, probably do some business or join my father's business, all of that, right? But one thing that I have realized over all these years is, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts the most. This is the line that I copied from I think one of the many lines that I've seen, and one of the many thoughts that I've uh, seen getting applied in my own life, right? Because when you see that, you feel that this is what I wanted to achieve and I'm settling for this, 2 years later on, you will realize that this is not the thing that I wanted, and probably I need something else, I need something better. And that is not wrong at all, that is the right thing, because success is never final. You kind of get into NIT Raulkela, which is one of the biggest brands, right? And then you might feel that now you want to get into this company, that company, and that race continues, right? Because otherwise you're dead. If you're not willing for more, you're kind of settled, you're kind of happy with whatever you have, I think then it's like very boring for me, at least in the initial 10 to 15 years of your career. If you kind of settle for less, I think that will be the biggest loss I think you will be doing for yourself. And in terms of emerging tech, I think there are a lot of learning portals that you have handy, which we guys were not very lucky that time. And we guys did not have access to the kind of resources that you guys have. So make use of those portals, make use of those learning platforms to kind of optimize for the best kind of things that you want to learn. Don't try to learn everything, but make sure that you kind of pick the right things. And if you're not sure about what you're doing, talk to your mentor, find the right mentor in the right space. It's not like anybody can be a good mentor, right? You need to find the right mentor and then start uh, start that journey of learning every other day. Cool. I think I tried to cover the career aspect, the corporate aspect, as well as the emerging tech space. Now, if I can get some questions from the audience, that would be nice. Hello, guys, can you hear me? Hello. Hey, guys, I'm done with the session. If there are any questions that you guys have, I can take that. So, how deeply does one need to know about the industry in which they are aiming for tech roles? Yeah, so very relevant question, because a lot of you guys would hear that I think you need to know the entire business, you need to know the company. No, you don't need to, right? So you need to know the team, you need to know the tech, right? That is the only thing that you need to know, and you need to know the business a bit, because you need to understand that is this the right company to join, right? You can't join any other company. You need to pick and choose, and that is why you need to know if this company is the right company to join, is this the right sustainable business model. And then when you talk about knowing everything, no, you don't need to know everything. You need to know which team you're joining, and the technology stack that you're going to work on, because otherwise you're kind of signing up for something which you even don't like. Does that answer?
Hello.
Yes, Srishti.
Okay, so there are a few more questions. One more by
Sure.
Jatin. Are there any specific skills or areas of knowledge you would recommend focusing on to stay in the industry?
Yeah, so I will tell you some very generic skills, right? Like, first of all, I talked about the foundations already, so I'm not covering that. The foundations has to be very, very strong. Like, you need to know the stack, the queues very, very clearly to actually go further, right? But when I talk about the languages, right? So if you're picking front end, if you're picking back end, there are some technologies which are still very relevant, right? So when you talk about front end, when you talk about mobile, React Native, Kotlin multi-platform. When you talk about native, it's Kotlin and Swift, right? And when you talk about backend, or when you talk about web, sorry, I think React is the most promising space even now. And a lot of guys use C Sharp and Next.js and all of that. But if you learn JavaScript properly, you can learn everything. Then when you talk about backend, I think Java is still one of the most widely used because of the kind of legacy it carries, right? And a lot of legacy services still are written in Java. Golang is another language that's picking up. Rust is another language. A lot of new developers are learning Rust. Python is another important thing to learn. So you don't need to learn everything. If you're good with Java and Golang, also you're good, right? And then you need to understand how the cloud works, right? So have a basic understanding of AWS or Azure or any of the cloud providers, right? Understand at least how uh, overall the cloud infrastructure works, right? And then if you're picking if you're picking anything else, then you need to basically uh, pick one or the two languages, right? Because it could be possible that you join a company and then you kind of figure out later on that this is not the language that's being used. Like if you join Goldman Sachs, they have their own language, right? So even if you learn Java, you can't find a tuition for what language they use, right? So you will have to learn on the job. So that adaptability will kick in. But I think if you know Python, even for the data science engineers, if you know Python, if you know SQL, basic SQL and the advanced SQL, I think you can go and explore further, right? So uh, if you really want to explore big data and all, I think then there are different technologies that you need to learn there as well. But I think if you can ask specific questions on a particular domain, I can probably go into the L2s. Uh,
Okay, there are a few more questions. Are there specific projects or certifications or experience that you believe significantly contributed to your professional development?
Certifications, big no. I had done a couple of certifications, Oracle certification in Java and Oracle Database Associate certificate. Uh, I have never used either of them. Certification, a big no. Projects, yes. Uh, so during the college, we had done multiple projects with the professors and with some new age startups that time. So there are a lot of these opportunities which are available for even I think the college students to work during the late night hours and solve the real life problems, right? So there are a lot of Indian and US based startups that actually hire college students uh, to build some startup projects, right? And that plays a lot of very lot of role in kind of understanding the ecosystem, understanding how the tech works, right? So I've been very lucky to actually even continue that journey even after getting into the corporate sector. So I was doing moonlighting also while I was working at Microsoft and few other companies, and because that was legal and it was completely fine to do that. So during the late night hours, I used to do that, and that gave me another level of push where I could actually explore a bunch of other things. I hope I answered. It's mostly about freelancing, and it's mostly about picking the right projects. Uh, it could be a new age startup that you kind of build things from scratch, or your own startup that you start up in college with your friends, right? And try and pick up a problem and solve for that. So when you build the entire project, right, around solving a real life problem, that is when you get the complete exposure to the tech ecosystem.
Okay, coming to the next question. Considering your experience at product based companies like Microsoft and Samsung, uh, do these companies value open source contributions from developers when they're evaluating a candidate for a position?
Very important question. I also, I think, talked about open source contributions. I personally look at it. A lot of guys actually put their GitHub profile without having enough weight on that, right? So when I open that and I see it's not good enough. So if it's not good enough, if you're solving a prime number problem in your GitHub profile and you're putting that link, it will not impress anybody, right? But if you're doing some real life problems, if you're creating a library that's being used, if you're creating some utilities that's being used, if you're writing some algorithms which is solving some problem, uh, that kind of interests me. Or if you're creating some tools which are being used by other folks, right? uh, so not any open source contributions, but any product based company will always look for open source contributions. So it could be to an existing library also. It doesn't have to be your own thing. It could be an existing library that Google owns or somebody else owns and is being used, and you're making some contribution to that. That also is being acknowledged and given value, enough value in the hiring process.
Okay. Now, next question. From the perspective of a director of engineering, how do product designers contribute to a company's growth?
Especially so Swiggy is all about consumer experience, right? As an end user of Swiggy, you must have seen the new experiences that we keep building for all of you guys to experience, right? And the product designers actually build those experiences with the product managers. We kind of implement them and execute them into the real life products and applications that you guys use, but the product designers work with the product managers to kind of curate this experience and user experience. So it is one of the most important and sought after roles. But one thing that you must realize, that it's not easy, right? One has to be artistic to get into this role. That intrinsic artistic nature has to be there for somebody to become a product designer, because they need to think out very loud, and it's kind of venturing into a space where the problem, like, there is not a definite solution. Like, uh, you have to kind of innovate and continuously find out the best experience that you can provide to end users. So from the perspective of my current role also, product designers are one of the most critical pieces of our team, and I work with them on a daily basis, so I know them the best.
Okay. Next, coming to the uh, next question. What strategies would you recommend for handling negotiations with a company, within a company?
Yeah, so a lot of guys do offer selling as well, where they show up offers from other companies. That kind of sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work as well, because at times when I see that the candidate adds enough value and he's asking for more, I don't refrain from giving that candidate whatever he's asking, because like every manager would like to have the right kind of engineers in their team. So as a director of engineering, I would go for exceptions in case I see the kind of value add that somebody brings in. But there is a limit to that. If somebody is asking unreasonably, that also kind of derails the entire discussion. So you have to be reasonable, and you have to also show the right kind of interest you have with the company. It's not just about the money, but the kind of role, the opportunity, the team, and you need to talk about the kind of value add you will bring in, so that the other person feels that whatever he's giving is worth it, right? It's not like just having a conversation on package and the numbers and all of that. So try to take it from both ways, saying this, somebody who is listening to you must also feel that this is a reasonable ask, and somebody who is keen and interested to join the team. The negotiations will work in your favor only when somebody else has that budget in hand, right? Otherwise, sometimes it kind of goes the other way around also, where the manager might feel that uh, no, probably he is getting into this, so let's kind of cancel this case, right? At times it happens because you're only caring about money, but if you're keen about the opportunity, and you kind of take that discussion that way, where you show the right interest and then approach the discussion that way, it always works out in the best possible manner. Hey Srishti, you're on mute, I'm not able to hear you.
Sorry. Thank you for the information, sir. I hope that answered your question. Um, okay. Coming to the next question. As you said, you receive applications in thousands, even for an intern role. How to make one's resume stand out in such a competitive talent pool?
Yeah, very important question, especially for guys seeking for the right kind of opportunities. So, look at the role, right? Look at what the role demands, and now look at your own profile. And I always look at it from a recruiter's point of view, saying if I am looking for a backend developer to handle one of the most scalable services independently, what are the skills I would look at, right? So then start mapping your skills against the role, right, and see how good you are in that skill. If I'm looking for Android development, and you're doing Compose, you are doing Dagger 2, you're doing Healed dependency injection frameworks, and you worked on work managers, like I will see what portfolio, what kind of skills that you carry, right? Similarly, um, for different kind of roles, I would look at your current projects, your past projects, and see if that profile actually makes sense for me to hire you. I talked about one simple word, value add, right? So what you bring to the table, you get paid for what you bring to the table, but the value addition has to be there, right? So my point is, look at if you are the right person for that role, and then uh, don't try to fake things. If you feel that this is the front end role and I am a back end engineer, probably find out the right opportunity, and then see how you can map skills against the role, and prepare for that as well. Like if you're writing, I know Compose, or I know um, work manager, I know recycler bean, like all of this, sorry, I know, um, um, like Swift UI, all of that has to be prepared in a way that if somebody gets deep dive into these things, right, you need to understand and you need to answer those questions. Otherwise, sometimes people write a lot of things, and then when you ask the first question, it kind of shows very clearly, right?
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, coming to the next question. Are there opportunities for engineers to take an additional responsibilities or special projects to help them grow professionally?
I think LinkedIn is one very good platform. A lot of guys don't know how to use it. Even following the right kind of trends in technology, if you just follow the right hashtags, right, or have good connections, you will see a lot of new opportunities coming your way every other day. And then I think I talked about learning portals a lot. So once you have acquired those skills and you're kind of sure that you can uh, get into, say, gaming development, app development, website development, or like writing microservices, or solving for some data science problems, right? All of that, I think, comes from the kind of projects that you have worked into. And then um, there are a lot of portals where you can actually explore remote opportunities, even for students, right? So that way, I think opportunities are there. They're not hard to find in the. So we are living in a world of so many different social media platforms, job search platforms. So there is over information. There is no lack of information. So you have to filter the noise and consume the right information coming your way. So how do you filter that is something that you need to look at, right? And then kind of use those opportunities with the skill set that you have, uh, and continuously get that opportunity. I personally believe one thing, that human relations will always preside over technology. So if you have good connections, if you're talking to uh, any leader in the corporate sector, and if you're connected with that person, any opportunity that that person has, and or anybody in his cycle has, if you are interested and keen, and I know that Srishti is looking out, and she has the right set of skills. If some of my contacts are hiring, I might kind of refer her to the right role, right? A lot of my jobs, even at my level, I think most of the hiring is done through reference, right? Because referrals, because you would only trust that person if somebody is watching for that, and the person watching for that, if you trust that person, you kind of assume that the referred person is also equally good. So always make the right connections, choose the right mentors. They will also help you to connect with the right opportunities.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that response. Coming to next question, is moonlighting legal or unethical?
Depends on different companies. I have done this with Samsung, with Swiggy, and with Microsoft. In Swiggy, it's also legal. In Microsoft, it was legal. In Samsung, I was doing it as a side project, which was very different than Samsung. So Samsung did not have any policy around moonlighting. So in some companies it is legal. In some companies it is not legal. Some companies say that you can't do it, but uh, there are a bunch of companies where you will not find time to do it, right? Like in Swiggy right now, if I want to do it, even then I can't do it because I don't have the time and the luxury. Initially, I think for the first 2 3 months I could do it because I had that time. So you need to understand, if you have the time and it's legal with your company, then you should do it. Otherwise, don't play with the compliance thing, right? Because then you're getting into a different kind of a problem. So it depends on company to company, short answer.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I think we are done with the questions. Thank you for sharing your expertise and insights with us. A big thanks to all for enthusiastic and such great response. We hope all the participants are enjoying the events hosted by Hack and ITR. And again, as mentioned earlier, today is the last date of registration. So if you have not registered, rush to the description. We have pasted the links. Also, if you have registered, make sure to join our Discord server for further communications and get updates. So, now with that, we conclude today's session. All the best and happy hacking.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.